Is Sammy Watkins going to coach at Clemson once his career is over? Why does that make my head hurt? No offense, Sammy. It's just, I would say PTSD, but long story. Not enough time to do a video to talk about it. Also, surprise impact players, not only in the ACC, but I'm going to tell you about a player I've already talked about, but I'm going to double down on a fantastic surprise, maybe not so much now, surprise impact player for the Clemson Tigers. Somebody I'm actually looking forward to seeing play. Welcome to Clemson Football Live. And we're back! Old Saturday Night Live skit. Back when Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson were married. That was actually a funny skit. And we're back! Jimmy Fallon. Anyway. Hope you subscribe if you like what I'm doing. It's free. It's free. So just take your thumb, mosey on over there to the subscribe button, and boom. Drop a line in here and say hello to me. It'd be great to hear from you. Also, I am part of the college huddle. I almost say college football huddle all the time. Eric Boggs and the guys over there reached out to me a while back and said, hey, we'd like for you to be our Clemson representative. And I said, sure. So I'm representing Clemson on the college huddle. Go check it out, the college huddle. You can Google it. I need to put a link down here. But anyway, I'm setting up a few people, trying to get a few people on my show from the college huddle who's representing their schools and talk about football. I want to talk to some Florida State people about their season, their feelings on DJ, and ask them to please be realistic, and other things. But anyway, go check out the college huddle. Let's dive in. So, Sammy Watkins was on the flagship station of Clemson within the past week. He was interviewed, and in the interview, he said that once his career is over, and I don't know if he has officially retired, but from what I understand, he's only considered it. He's not retired yet. He said that maybe coaching is his calling, and you can go look this up. You can check out what I'm talking about. And I don't like to make people pay for the sins of others. Okay? What I mean by that is, just because a person fits some type of scenario based on past scenarios and past people, I don't want to implement that guilt upon them, unfortunately. Unfortunately for Sammy Watkins, when I heard that he wanted to come back to Clemson and coach, folks, could you imagine Dabo Swinney saying no to Sammy Watkins? I mean, Sammy Watkins. I mean, that guy single-handedly won games by himself. Remember the Maryland game? How do you tell Sammy Watkins no? Okay? You've said yes to other people. How do you tell him no? So, but stay on subject, Brian. The problem is when I heard that, my head started hurting. Because I asked myself, can Sammy Watkins coach? Can he? I mean, you want to hire someone to build your house, the first question you have to ask yourself is, have they ever built a house before? And if they have, how did that house turn out? The more houses they've built and examples of work that they have, you can go drive by and look at. All of a sudden, you're like, wow, they built this beautiful home. They built that beautiful home. They did this. They did this custom work. It's unbelievable. I have family in contracting. So trust me, I'm used to this. You can hop on a boat on Lake Kiowee and drive around in some of the biggest places on Lake Kiowee. Some of my family and extended family actually built. So understand this. You ask yourself, has that person built a house before? And if so, of what quality was it? So it's not wrong to ask the question, can Sammy Watkins coach? Again, I don't want to make him pay for the sins of others, but my head started to hurt. Why? Because this hiring former players has got Clemson into a pickle. And some people are going to talk about Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott. Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott were fantastic together. but apart, wasn't so good. It wasn't so good. We know it. I know it. I mean, anyone who's being honest with themselves knows this. And some Clemson fans, when I talk about, especially, I can't, for some reason, I buy into Jeff more than I buy into Tony. And this is the reaction I get from Clemson fans.
What? Well, that's insane!
Sure, you're just like Lyle. What? That's insane! Is it? No, it's not. But the whole point is, I hope that Swinney has learned his lesson on hiring former players. That's the reason the offense looks terrible. If Sammy Watkins can coach football, bring him on. If he can't, my response is...
No! No! No!
Couldn't have said it better myself, Michael Scott. So let's talk about surprise impact players for Clemson. Let's move on. Let's move on from this. Now, Clemson signed a lot of DBs in this recruiting cycle. And then on top of that, we saw players like Khalil Barnes, Avion Terrell, and there's one other guy that for some reason he's slipping my mind. But they came out and they played fantastic last year. They had to play because of injuries that was going on among the team. They outperformed a lot of guys who were starters and had been around the program for a while. So I'm not worried about Clemson's defense. I've said that over and over. But my surprise impact player for Clemson, one of them is Tavoy Fagan. It's not Fagan, it's Fagan. I looked it up. Tavoy Fagan, who had the pick six in the spring game, can play. He almost had 2 more interceptions. And here he is on the big stage. I mean, this is the first time he's playing out in front of the Clemson family in Death Valley. The guy came out and put on a clinic. And I really believe this is a guy that we need to pay attention to. I believe this guy, given the opportunity and given that it hasn't went to his head how well he played in that scrimmage, I really believe this guy is something else. And I believe that he's going to step up. I think that we have someone special on our hands. With a unit that I already believe has a lot of special players on it, on the defensive side of the ball. If there is any reason that Clemson will have success this year, if there's any reason that we will stay in games even when the offense is still trying to work things out, it will be our defense, and it will be because of guys like Tavoy Fagan. Next up, Jamal Anderson. I mean, I remember when his dad was playing for the Falcons, the whole Dirty Bird thing, it was great. It was fun. But just because you have your dad's name doesn't mean you can play football. We know this. Just because you look like your dad, just because you were even trained by your dad, does not mean that you're going to be incredible. Jamal Anderson, Jr., I'm just calling him that, came out, and I'm telling you, the impressiveness of that interception a few weeks ago in the spring game. He picked off the ball so close to the line of scrimmage, picking off a pass that he is that close to the quarterback with the velocity and the speed that it's thrown at. And to have the hand-eye coordination to not only pick it off, then to truck it to the house, that should excite us Clemson fans. This is good news. This is one more player who on the defensive side of the football gives us a chance. If there's any reason, I say this again, if there is any reason for us to look up and say, maybe, it's definitely our defense. And it's guys like him. It's young guys like him. I mean, we know that Peter Woods and T.J. Parker, again, these will be true sophomores. All right? These are not redshirt sophomores. These guys come in, and they're going to play their brains out. Of course, you have Barrett Carter. Everybody's talking about Sammy Brown and his hair. I think his hair got a scholarship. Standalone scholarship. And at this point, I'm all for it. But this Jamal Anderson and Tavoy Fagan, watch them. Take it to the house. Take it to the house. I remember Tavoy Fagan intercepted the ball. I think I misspoke and said he took it to the house. I could be wrong. Please forgive me if I did. Trust me, you'll correct me. You'll correct me in the... if I'm totally wrong. Step in here. Bet no one's watching from the cab of a John Deere tractor alongside an active runway. That's fantastic. Fantastic. I'm glad that you're here. Jimmy Jam, Dabo is at it again. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. Jay, Clemson Football would not be okay with Watkins coaching, LOL. Jay, you might be. I'm telling you, there's people out there who... never mind. You're about to fire up the airing of the grievances, Jay. You know you are. Will, bet no one is watching in the middle of 10th grade English class. Searches. You're so crazy. Pay attention. Glad you're here. Don't get caught. Andrew Roof. Watching in the middle of my workday when I should be responding to emails and managing a team. Hey, Andrew Roof. Pull it together, man. I need strategy. Need strategy. Jay. Tight end has to break out in this season, especially when it comes to blocking. Hey, we have them, and it's time to use them across the board. Are you alumni? Me? No. I'm everything but alumni. I lived in the shadow of the valley. Dabo should give 1 year without pay to these players to see if they can coach. Not a bad idea, sir. Let's dive back into this. By the way, if you're watching or you're going to be watching this later on, I hope you're subscribed. It's free. It's a great way to support the channel. Remember, I'm just a dude on break in his bonus room. So I appreciate everybody. The channel has grown fast. I mean, I know it's not at millions or hundreds of thousands, but I'm telling you, to start a YouTube channel like this, a lot of times you can talk to people, it grows really, really slow. But for the size of the channel, just focusing basically on one team, it's done well, and it's all because of you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's talk about ACC football here. CBS Sports actually put out this article yesterday called ACC Spring Football Overreactions. Miami has the one and count. More Florida State defense will key title run. Okay. And it's a really interesting read. I'm not going to go through all of it, but he talks about the players who are playing for each team, players to watch. And while I was going through this article, I realized that up at Wake Forest, Dave Clawson can coach football, okay? To have the success that he has had with the limitations of Wake Forest football, it's kind of like going to Boise State, okay? It's tough to coach there. It's tough to bring in players. But if you find that guy who can bring in players, develop them, and then coach them up, I mean, you really have to be on top of your game. Anybody can coach Trevor Lawrence, okay? Anybody can coach Trevor Lawrence. Anyone can coach Deshaun Watson. Why? Because all you have to do is just give them the keys to the car and just make sure there's fuel in it. But when you get to like Wake Forest, you have to be able to coach. When you get to Boise State, you have to coach at places like that. Hank Bachmeier left Boise State. He's going into, I think, 6th year of college. And he had a fantastic freshman campaign, and then out of nowhere, he kind of fell off the map. And here we are 5 years later, something like that. He's at Wake Forest now. The guy, just go look up his stats. Go look up how well he played at Boise State. He might have had some health issues. Please forgive me for not knowing that. But it really jumped out to me that he is the quarterback at Wake Forest. And if he stays healthy, I think that he could provide some much-needed firepower for them if he has some, just some solid weapons around him. They can win some games that you wouldn't expect them to win. Next up, Duke. Duke has Malik Murphy. Now, Malik Murphy was a quarterback at Texas, filled in for Quinn Ewers when Quinn Ewers went down. Now, he's sitting in that room with Arch Manning. Everybody's paying attention to Quinn, but everybody's paying attention to Arch. And Malik Murphy, he's playing, third fiddle, even though he got the start when Quinn Ewers went down. Now, he's at Duke. And we know that it's going to be tough being up there with Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz, the guy's made a lot of money coaching. He was at the University of Miami, had other stops as a defensive coordinator, but he was at the University of Miami, got fired. He spent the past few years with Penn State as the defensive coordinator. And there's a lot of people who are really high up on Manny Diaz, okay? I'm just telling you, I don't think he's a bad coach, but I don't think he's a great coach. I think that anytime he had to play someone who could out-scheme him, who had solid players, he lost. Really, he really did. And so that's the reason he got fired at Miami, for anyone who wants to argue with me. If that were not the case, he would still be at Miami. No shot at Manny. He's made a ton of money. Good for him and his family. But he's taking over Duke. I don't think that he is the scheming type of coach that Mike Elko is, and now at Texas A&M. So it's interesting to see Malik Murphy take over up there. Now, a player like Malik Murphy is going to get theirs. I say that all the time with players who are really talented. They're going to get theirs. It just doesn't mean they're going to win. So that'll be interesting to watch. Moving on down, Syracuse. Syracuse, they fired Dino Babers, hired in this guy, I can't remember his name, from Georgia. And I'm going to look this up while I'm talking, but their offense is, people are saying, oh, it's going to be fantastic. Fran Brown, that's it. He's been in the transfer portal doing his thing and so on. But Kyle McCord transferring from Ohio State, and they have that Gadsden guy, Orlando Gadsden. He's a fantastic tight end, wide receiver type. He's a big dude. So they're probably going to come out and have a decent offense. The problem is with them is their offense. Their defense. Their defense is just, we'll see. We'll see. We know about Florida State. We know the whole thing that's going on with Florida State and DJ and not all of it. Let me tell you this. I watched a video the other day, and I'm trying to have these guys on and send them an email. We've been corresponding. It's just trying to get the schedule set up. But I reached out to these guys, and they're Florida State YouTubers. They're part of the College Huddle. When I reached out to them, I said, hey, I'd love to have you on. But I watched their video talking about the spring game, and they nailed DJ to a T. It sounded like a Clemson fan talking about DJ. It really did. And in my invitation to be on the show, I said, hey, really good commentary on DJ. So Florida State, at the end of the day, really lives and dies by how well DJ performs. And at this point, I've said this once, and I'm going to say it again. Florida State is sounding a lot like Tennessee last year during the offseason when they were talking about Joe Milton. Yeah, you're just salty. I love that statement. I remember that one statement. You sound salty. How'd that Tennessee season turn out for you, Mr. Salty? Was I salty or was I right? I was right. And I'm telling you, unless a Red Sea splitting miracle, water into wine miracle happens with DJ. DJ's going to do exactly, good footwork or not, going to do exactly what he's done the past 4 years. Now, whether he is the product of poor development, which I believe he was at Clemson. Clemson's went through 3 quarterbacks. Folks, that's just happened. It just happened, folks. It's time for the airing of the grievances.
With the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people.
It's time for you to hear about it. Listen to me. Listen to me. You got to develop. I don't care if you're at Clemson. Don't care if you're at Georgia. Don't care if you're Florida State. You have to develop players. What are you paying these whistle holders to do? Develop players. Yeah, the player has some skin in the game, but my Lord, you have to develop players. If coaching does not matter, why in the crap are you paying them so much? I'm just asking you that. DJ, underdeveloped. Oh, we could say it's on DJ. It was DJ's fault that Clemson fell off the way. What happened to 45-0 in high school, won 3 state championships, 2 as a starter, Cade Klubnik at Clemson? What's happened so far there? Oh, we can't talk about. Oh, he's just a dud. He's just a bust. Oh, Christopher Vizina? Christopher Vizina has 4-star out of Alabama? He's not developing well? Oh, let me guess. You want to have your head up your butt because you don't want to admit that coaching does matter and that, well, it hasn't been going on. Whether it's at Clemson, whether it's at Florida State. Florida State, I'm going to tell you this. Here you go. Airing of agreements is for you. I'm pulling for DJ. I hope you lose to us, but I'm pulling for DJ because I feel bad for him to a point. I watched him play a lot at Oregon State last year, but I'm telling you right now, I would back off the trash talk and just let what happens because it does not look good for you. And that's the end of the airing of the grievances.
With the airing of grievances. I got a lot of problems with you people.
Thank you, Frank Costanza. About to come to a close here. Georgia Tech, Brent Key taking over. They got Haynes King, the kid out of Texas A&M. They didn't do too bad last year, considering. So we'll see how they do. We'll see how everything ends up for them. I think that they could be dangerous. SMU, Rhett Lashley, you have to respect him as offensive coordinator. Pitt, I really know nothing about Pitt between you and I. I'm not a big Pitt fan. I've talked about Grayson McCall at NC State, even produced a video a couple of days ago asking if Grayson McCall was called by Clemson. We knew he wasn't. I'd love to ask the young man in private, because he won't admit it now. He's at NC State. He's going to play against Clemson within the first 4 games, I think, of the season. But I would love to ask him in private, and then ask him if I can share it with everyone, which is no longer private again. If Clemson contacted you, would you have considered? Would you have considered? That would have been a good one. He's got KC Concepcion up there. I want to say they got another guy who's a pretty good player out of the transfer portal. It's going to be interesting. Mac Brown, how much time does he have left? How much time does Mac Brown have left? I've always liked Mac Brown. Seems like a class act. Jeff Collins, former Georgia Tech head coach, who had to take over for that 1944 World War II offense. It won them a championship in the ACC. Yep. And it did nothing for them after that, did it? It looked terrible. Let me see. Some great comments in here. It's just interesting. We'll see what goes on with Mac Brown. Miami has Cam Ward. A lot of people are all fired up about Cam Ward being there. They just got Damian Martinez, the running back from Oregon State. Guy can play. I watched him play as I was watching DJ last year, hoping that DJ would pull it together. With all that said, I'm not going back over that. Martinez can play. Miami has no problem getting good players. Miami has had a problem for many, many years now of getting the most out of those fantastic players. Brevin Jordan, like 5 years ago, different coaching staff, Brian. Did you see Miami's season last year? Yeah. Anyway. Brevin Jordan was unbelievable. He's doing well in the big leagues, too. But wasted talent here and there. They can have a top 5 recruiting class. every other year or something like that. Top 10 recruiting class every other year. You know what? Do they look like it? No. No, they don't look like it. The seat is getting hot for Cristobal. The new has worn off. The new baby smell is gone. The new car smell now reeks of oldness and fast food stenches. It's a big year for Miami. Else they may be looking for another coach. Jeff Brom, excuse me. It's all the Broms. Jeff Brom, can he continue what he did in his first year? He's got Tyler, is it Show? Former Texas Tech and Oregon quarterback. He's coming in. It'll be interesting. And it's funny that the player that they picked for Clemson is Bryant Wesco. I get why, and I get it's also part of the general idea of the article. Okay, the article is talking about basically overreaction. So I guess that's a pretty good one, but Bryant Wesco is going to, I think he's going to do well as long as he stays healthy. I look forward to seeing TJ Moore coming in. It's going to be fun. But just finding that balance on the offense of running. I think you're going to see Phil Maffa run the ball, 25 to 30 times a game. And if it's working, they're going to put more of the game on Phil's shoulders. He has the experience and the tenure, okay? So he can handle it. So we'll probably see that, and then we're going to see Cade as much as they trust him. They're going to look at his decision making. They're going to go from there. But you're really going to see Phil Maffa, and then that's going to affect how much Wesco and TJ Moore get the ball, how much Antonio Williams gets the ball, Brennan Stoll gets the ball. Can they get the ball? Will the offensive line hold up long enough? Not because of Matt Lue, but because of poor coaching over the years. Can they give Cade time? And will Cade break out of that staring down his wide receivers because, well, he's had such little time to throw? He's picked up poor habits. I mean, it's a good question to ask. By the way, you don't have to ask that question. You just be surprised when he lost and then, come back, rewind my videos and go, hey, that idiot predicted it. Yeah, I know. It happens a lot. I'm not right about everything, but I'm right about a lot. I'm just a bad guy until it comes to pass. And by the way, I hate it when it comes to pass because it means my team loses. Talk about bittersweet. It's good to know that you can analyze stuff. It's bad when it happens because, well, unfortunately, your team loses. Folks, hope you subscribe, hit the thumbs up. If you want to support the channel on a monthly basis, there's a join button below the video, unless you're on an iPhone. You won't see it there. But it's $3 or $5 per month. I want to send out a special shout out to all the people who has joined Clemson Football Live, from Parker Henderson, Still Gamble, Big John, Roger Parks, Grafnar, Hofer Billy Paul. I mean, there's a bunch of you who has stepped out there and just, man, you've just been good. And I know I miss some of you. Please don't be offended. That's just spitballing here. I appreciate the support of the channel because, as I said, I'm just a guy in my bonus room. There's no commercials that's going to be running in just a second. There's no media team who's going to come in here and tell me, hey, you shouldn't have said that, man. I appreciate your support. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy talking to you, even when we disagree. I hope you will subscribe. Drop a line below the video. Say hello. As always, go Tigers.